any question at all, and don't be afraid to ask anything.
Is there some way that we can reconcile the almost 150-year discrepancy between the Torah historians' dating of the Churban Bayis Rishon and secular historians?
Is there some way of reconciling the discrepancy between the chronology of the Torah and the chronology of the secular historians? Yes, there's a very good way to reconcile that discrepancy, and that is to follow the Torah historians. I'll tell you why. People are naive. They don't realize what's behind the secular historians. It's all rigged for a purpose. And the purpose is to justify the Christian books. Now, the Christian books were not written by scholars. Anybody who knows a little bit about their books can recognize the ignorance of the early writers. And therefore, it's gratuitous. It's entirely unnecessary for us to bother our heads to reconcile our chronology with theirs. Let them reconcile theirs with ours. Because we have an exact chronology according to generations. Jews didn't calculate by years. We calculated by generations. And we have every generation in a sequence from the beginning down to today. We know all the generations. And therefore, that's valid enough for us. Now, the number of years, according to these generations, in the Tanakh is enumerated, and that's good enough. However, it's useful to know what a certain writer, I won't give him the honor of mentioning him, a secular writer states, that there's a very big mix-up in the secular chronology. And that's because it's all based on Egyptian chronology. All the secular chronology is based on ancient Egyptian records. But the ancient Egyptian records are like a palimpsest. You know what a palimpsest is? It's an old scroll written on parchment, and then somebody needed some place to write on, so he erased part of the parchment and wrote something on top of the old letters. They call it palimpsest. So, experts who want to discover what the original writing was, they photograph the present writing, then they erase it carefully, and they try to find underneath the furrows that were caused by the pen or the stylus of the original writer. That's a job for experts. So it's one kind of writing imposed on another kind of writing. Now that's what happened with the Egyptian chronology. You know, Egypt suffered a great setback. Egypt was laid low at the time of the Makkos. Because after Yetzias Mitzrayim, for 500 years, Egypt didn't take any part in the history of the Am Yisrael in Eretz Yisrael. All the Eretz Yisrael is right in the backyard of Egypt. And Egypt, before that period of Yetzias Mitzrayim, and after the time of Shlomo, Egypt is a mighty power. So how could a little nation like the Jews be right next door to Egypt for 500 years, and there's no mention of Egypt for 500 years? It's a remarkable fact. The answer is Egypt was laid so low by the Makkos, it was ruined. Egypt was a desolation for 500 years. It took them that long to recover. Now, during that desolation, all the Egyptian records were destroyed. And when they began to write, it was like writing on top of old records. And so, when Herodotus began to copy his history from ancient Egyptian records, what did he do? He took the two sets of records that were overlapping, and he didn't know there was a 500-year gap in between. And he thought they were consecutive. And therefore, he came to the very great error of making a chronology that didn't acknowledge a gap in history. So therefore, in order to accommodate our history, the Torah history, the true chronology, with the faulty chronology of Herodotus, we are going to strain ourselves to make some kind of conciliation. It's a waste of time. And therefore, we follow our living tradition. We didn't have any such destruction of Egypt because our traditions were continuous. And therefore, we have in our hands the perfect records of all of our generations. Josephus, at the end of the second Churban, says we have in writing all the generations of our priests from Aaron HaKohen down. Now, you have from Aaron HaKohen down to the Churban Bayesheni. It means you have from Odom Avishon to Churban Bayesheni. So we have pedigrees, clear-cut pedigrees from Odom Avishon to then the Churban Bayesheni. Well, that's good enough. You don't need any more. Let them worry about reconciling their records with ours. Question. The Torah prohibits premarital sex. Does that mean that premarital sex